Hey, today's lesson is about sketching methods that you can do if you have a busy schedule and you want to use your time as as best as possible. So what we're doing today is action poses. Now, when it comes to action poses, you're probably thinking about the immediate fear of anatomy not being correct and the clothing and what to put as far as weaponry, the size of the head, etc. And I'm here to say one of the biggest overlooked aspects of action poses is the actual motion of the figure. All right, so when we think of action poses, we think about movements in which the character does not look stiff, for one. But two, what is the whole purpose of the character moving the way that he or she is moving? And this is when the stick figure really comes in. Now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, I'm way more advanced in the stick figure. What are you having me do in drawing that? And the truth is, not enough people do it. Picture this. You have a sketchbook open, okay, and you have this character in mind, and you want your character to be in this awesome looking pose. What is the first thing that comes to mind? Oh man, what are they wearing? What's their armor going to look like? I can't draw feet. I can't draw hands. All of the stuff that is important to know how to do should come later, because the first thing that you should tackle is the motion in which the character is moving. Now you can see here that I have been scribbling on the stick figure or the wireframe of the character. Now there are some places of emphasis that you need to put to take away the stiffness. One, right there in the neck. Okay, head tilt is very important. Two, the direction in which the feet are placed. So oftentimes character artists or a beginning character artist will draw feet going in the exact same direction, and that's immediately pointing to stiffness. Third, what are the arms and hands doing? So our bodies are pretty amazing. We can move in so many different ways that we normally wouldn't think of. I mean, if you take yoga, or if you have taken any kind of martial arts, if you go swimming, if you do sports, think about all of the things that you have to do with your body in order to counter your weight, to keep your balance, to move, to swim, just to move during your everyday, motions. And that's something that can be both fun and a little intimidating at the same time, especially when you have to draw it. So you can see here, this was done in what, 3 minutes? And then you move on to the next one. So if you have a really busy schedule and you need to get some of these out, this is usually the best method. So if you're drawing a character right this second and you're worrying about hand placement, you're worrying about whether or not the head tilt is going to be good or not, I just want you to know that if you do this stick figure method and you start placing the bend of the legs and then the placement of the arms, you're going to thank yourself later. Okay, so like right now, I know that if the eyes are facing this direction, like that, I'm going to put a little arrow in just to kind of remind me of it. Okay, so you can see that this figure looks like they're bending over, about to fight or get ready to do something pretty incredible. Maybe jump, maybe holding a weapon, maybe defending a fortress, or getting ready to ice skate. Who knows? Who knows? And you can do all kinds of stuff with this. For example, let's say you want to indicate some clothing, but you don't really want to go into detail as to what the clothing is, and that's fine. Notice how I'm starting to put emphasis on the direction in which the feet are facing. That's a really important one. Check your figures right now and see if the feet are facing the same direction all the time. Okay, and if that happens, then you might want to switch it up. So here we have a female, and hair is actually a character in itself, or you probably don't hear that much, but hair is very important, especially if you're doing, and males can have long hair too, it doesn't matter, but if your character has long hair and your head is moving and you drew it in such a way that there's wind or some kind of motion that would be moving that hair, that's really important to show that that motion in there. So now we can get a sense that this character is whipping the head around in some strange fashion. I'm not going to have this character hold a weapon or anything. It's just stationary. All right, let's move over here. Maybe something smaller. You know, let's say you have a superhero in a power stance. Okay, so what are the body parts that are accentuated for a superhero? You know, and what's the actual lines for the stances? Okay, because you got your legs. Spread the legs out. You want to accentuate the bend and the calves. Now, this is not worrying too much about anatomy at first because the bulk of the body is going to be put on later. We need to figure out what the stance is going to be and where the superhero is going to be looking and what they're going to be made of. You know, maybe it's a robot, maybe it's an entity from another planet or dimension. You can see that when I add thickness to the figure, I'm not outlining any particular piece of armor. None of that. And also, when you start doing these little practices, you're going to realize that, hey, if you made a mistake in the overall proportions of the figure, these little scratch marks, they can be added upon or subtracted from at a later time. Something like this. I thought I was drawing Ultron for a minute. Big barrel chest. There we go. Like this. And you see how messy I'm being, see how free I'm being. And if you're pressed for time and you only have 20 minutes left on your lunch break and you want to do something really cool, this is a way to do it. Allow yourself to fail too. You don't have to be completely perfect. Also, my sketchbook is tilted down a little bit, so if you tilt it upright, the figures aren't as squished. So hopefully this is helping you guys out. So let's say you want to indicate where some of the anatomy actually is, you know, like the kneecap. You just darken enough little places like this. And also think about the areas in which you can accentuate some of the joints. So for example, right at the elbow, you know, it's pretty common to have the forearms pretty thick on a superhero. And then you want to put the spheres in for the shoulders, but you know, you can bend that wrist. And if it's too small, too big, maybe you can add something to it. Maybe you can make the legs a little longer. Okay, put a little shadow in here. There we go. And I don't want to spend too much time on it. Just show the abdomen a little bit. Maybe get that center line in. This is such a fun part about figure drawing and about superhero drawing is you can see the character unfold as you start putting the lines down. Like, oh man, super muscular, or maybe half robotic, half synthetic, like who knows. I always like drawing the crazy helmets. I think that's probably one of the most fun part for me. Some indications that there's some circuitry in the back, some kind of strange antenna on the head, maybe a cool little helmet, something on the forearm. Okay, and then you move on. You could do smaller sketches too. So let's say you want to do something super quick. You do the oval for the head. I like to draw a line for the tilt in the shoulders. A bigger, almost guitar pick shape for the torso, the trapezius, and the chest. And then stick lines for the hands, thigh coming out, bending back, and then a little bit of the thigh here. You can see the foot behind the leg. And you've probably seen this pose before. I mean, Spider-Man, any superhero leaping, looking around for the next person to save or the enemy to attack. Especially if they have a fist ready or a weapon. And you really want to accentuate the size of the thigh too. The center line always helps, so I just scribble in some of the center line right here, going down the torso, across the chest. There's the abs. Notice how I'm still not worrying too much about clothing or anything for that matter. And if you're having trouble deciding where to put the actual wrists and the hands and things like that, you can put little spheres in for the major joints. to let you know where to connect lines at. So this hand, never get boring with the hands. So make sure that the hands are always doing something. You don't want to just draw stiff hands because that helps your character look stiff. So you want to add motion to it. Okay, and that's like a little smaller sketch, and you can move up. And let's see what else we got. I mean, we got some other crazy stances. Let's put a little stick figure in here. And then maybe this character is like a double agent, sneaking around a corner, tilting the head back, holding a pistol up, kind of like James Bond almost. You see how messy I'm being with the feet and the body parts. But as you continue to add to those sections, you're going to see the thickness of the body start to come out. And I'm still showing weight distribution. So the center of gravity for this very loose figure is right here in the middle. There's balance to it. You always want to add balance. Come over here, look at this one. Balance in the middle. All the weight is on her left leg. Okay. This fighter right here is stepping towards us, doing something crazy with weapons. Go down the middle. There's a good center of balance. Center of balance for the superhero right here. And then this one, even though that this character is in the air, you can still cut that in half to know that the person is not losing control while leaping. That's the other thing. Unless the character is getting punched or thrown, then they should look pretty stationary and controlled in the air. Just study stances from Spider-Man, Carnage, and Venom, and pretty much any superhero or character that has to leap a lot. So that usually helps. Okay, let's go back to our gun-toting figure. So I'll put the shape of the head in. I'll just put some indications of what could be on the head. Not really sure what, but I want this character to be looking at us. This circle right there, or oval, that's the shoulder. So this person is trying to stay hidden and covert and still look at us. Okay, so let's go over some very important things when doing action poses and drawing these quickly. One, always think about the motion of your character first before you start placing details down. Get the gesture in. If you're not familiar with what a gesture is, it is drawing the human form quickly and in motion within a specific time frame. That's what a gesture sketch is. The second thing to look for is the direction in which the head is facing or looking and the tilt of the neck. Often in portfolios and in figure drawing in general, stiffness occurs in the neck. So you want to be sure that when you're drawing your figures, and here's the shoulders / clavicle and everything. So like there's the right shoulder, there's the left shoulder. Never ever draw the neck at a 90-degree angle from the shoulders. Always put a slight tilt on it. What this will do is it'll help prevent stiffness. Now, when it comes to hero poses, so let me put this up just a little bit. So you can see that that character, the legs are spread apart, and you can see that I put the line of sight as the character slightly looking upwards instead of down or directly at us. Now, there's nothing wrong with showing the character looking directly at us. As a matter of fact, that's a safe bet. You should do that more often. But think about what's happening with the neck in order for the character to look in that direction. Because our heads are not placed on top of our spine or connected to our spine at a 90-degree angle. This is why, let's say, for example, here's the shoulder. Okay, there's the tricep, bicep, elbow. Okay, you got your brachialis, forearm. Okay, the back right here, rhomboid, latissimus, trapezius up top. You got your chest, your pectoral, right there. Okay, here's the important, crucial part so that it is not stiff. You never draw the neck straight up. You always want to lean the neck forward a tad because you're going to see the sternocleidomastoid muscle right there. You're going to have your clavicle, and then the head is usually placed a little bit, or grows out from a little bit forward. Okay, and then you have the head, and then you have your throat, etc. Okay, so always remember that. Now, you're not going to be a hunchback or anything unless you're drawing a hunchback. But just look at yourself. Have somebody take a picture of yourself, set your camera up, look at your profile in side view, and you will see that our necks are not straight up and down unless we force our bodies to do that. So just remember that in your action poses, because when you look at something like this, so this character is looking slightly downward like this. Always have that point of interest whenever you're doing action poses. Okay, point of interest here, this way, looking off. This one looking directly at us, but this warrior could be dodging some kind of weapon thrown at them. Looking up slightly. This one tucking the neck and the head slightly behind the shoulder for cover. Okay, but you can see the stance is pretty wide, so that there's a lot of action in here, and also weight distribution. So look at that weight. I would say, just ballpark estimate, about 90% of this person's weight is on their right leg, and then the left leg will be the pivot leg. They're ready to fire. They're going around a corner searching for some kind of noise that they heard. Hopefully this helped you if you're trying to sketch quickly in the mornings before you start work. Maybe you're at work and you're kind of you're bored with what you're drawing figure-wise, or you're just trying to get better at drawing figures in general. This is the way to do it. Always think about the motion. Always draw the stick portion first, just to get the looseness and the gesture of the character, and then start building the thickness. I don't really know what the clothing is going to be on each one. If there's going to be awesome looking armor, if there's going to be some kind of weird gadgetry, that comes later. Just get the stances in first. Hopefully that helped. Comment below if you liked it, and let me know what you're working on. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.